welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome. My name is Maddie and today I will be reviewing season 2 episode 12 of Fruits Basket. We are doing something a little different since I have 2 more videos I need to film today, so I'm kind of like swamped today. I'm going to make this a GRWM video. Get ready with me for those of you who don't know what that means. And do my makeup while talking about the episode, just so I can like kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I thought that would be cool and kind of fun to do, as well as save time. So we're gonna try that out. Also, I'm using my phone because I want to like set my stuff on my desk, and my camera doesn't really work well to set up next to my desk, so we're gonna use my phone and my phone tripod for now. So we're back to my low quality videos again, but this is the most practical to film at this spot. So we're gonna deal with it this time. Okay, so let's just get started. So I think I'm gonna talk about the whole backstory first. Let's get that out of the way. Like I said in my reaction video, I was so bummed that we got right back into Hatori and Kanna's backstory, because I completely forgot that we were gonna go into that again, and it was like just as heartbreaking as what was it? Season 1, episode 7? Like wanted to cry all over again. I was not expecting that. I'm like, oh shit, here we go again. One thing that's so realistic that I'm sure people actually go through is the whole scenario where Mayu gets a crush on her best friend's boyfriend, which is so freaking awkward. I actually felt bad for her because although she was like in love with the guy, and love is great, but you don't want to fall in love with your friend's boyfriend. That's never a good scenario. But yeah, it's so freaking realistic, and one thing I love about Fruits Basket is how many realistic situations it does have. And oftentimes those sorts of scenarios can go one of 2 ways. Usually the first one, I come to find out based on experience and observing people who have gone through this, is when you do start to like your best friend's boyfriend, most people just want to steal them for themselves, which is so freaking disappointing and is such like a stab in the back thing to do to your friend, and it's something that will for sure really drive that friendship apart. But Mayu, God bless her, is not like that because she is an adult, and she, even though she loves Hatori, is just like, I just want those 2 to be happy, and they are happy with each other, so I'm not gonna interfere, which like I said, just such a grown-up thing to do. I respect her so much because of that, because you know how hard it must be to watch someone that you're in love with be with someone else and you can't have them. That just must be so heartbreaking. She just wants her friend to be happy, and since she does love Hatori, she wants him to be happy as well, and those 2 at the time were so happy together that that's all she wanted. And it was just so sweet of her. It just shows how selfless that Mayu is. And she's a character who we haven't seen much of before, so we did not know this about her before. We've only known her as the kids' homeroom teacher, and that's it. But she got so much development in this episode, and I'm so glad that newbies actually get to see how great she is. Even though she doesn't show up often, she's still such a great character because she really shines in this episode. We get to know just how pure and selfless she is, and it's just the best. And because all she wanted was for Hatori and Kanna to be happy, when the whole fiasco happened where Kanna had to forget about him because she felt guilty about being the person who caused him to injure his eye, when that wasn't the case. We already know that. We've already been through that. That's why Kanna was so sad when she did forget about Hatori, because she knew that Hatori was Kanna's happiness, and now that she's forgotten about him, that happiness that both of them have is all over. It was like a punch to the gut when after Kanna forgot about Hatori, she was like, she says to Mayu, "You and Hatori would be so good together," and Mayu just starts breaking down. I'm like, I almost wanted to cry too, because Mayu knows how great and perfect Kana and Hatori were for each other. To hear her best friend just be like, "Oh, we would never work out together. You guys would work out together more," when you know those two were meant for each other, and the fact that she just forgot about him and is insisting that you be with him. Even though Mayu loves Hatori and has feelings for the guy, that's something she does not want to hear, because her main priority was always Kana's happiness over hers. So of course she's going to be upset that Kana just brushed aside her ultimate source of happiness because she forgot about him. It's another way that Mayu shows her selflessness, because she could have easily been like, "I can take this guy now because those two are done. Kana forgot about him, so it's like free reigns to take him." But she did not do that. She didn't even see the guy until 2 years later. And I think that's so impressive of her, because she could have taken him right away because they were over. And sometimes, like I said in those scenarios, when the best friend is in love with your boyfriend and you guys break up and then they instantly get together right after you break up, that's another slap in the face, even if the couple was already broken up. You just don't date your best friend's boyfriend. That's what I'm saying, unless enough time has passed. And that's the case with Hatori and Kana. 2 years have passed since Hatori and Kana had broken up, and I feel like that's plenty of time. That's enough time to where it doesn't make it seem unethical for Mayu to start seeing him, because enough time has passed to where Kana can move on and is not going to be hung up over that, which she wasn't ever hung up on the fact that they broke up in the first place, because she had forgotten about him. But still, it just morally would not have been okay for her to be with him right away after Kana forgot about him, especially on Hatori's part, because the wound of leaving Kana was so strong that was fully moved on until sometime later. And I think 2 years is enough time for him to be okay with starting anew again. Now, especially that Kana is married herself, I think everything on her part is fine, but I do feel like at this point Hatori is able to fully move on and start thinking about pursuing someone else. So I think it's totally fine and acceptable for Mayu to start seeing him now. And I'm so glad that they did run into each other again, so that this relationship between them can start up again. And though I think Mayu made a great decision of not going after her best friend's boyfriend while they were still dating, I think she made a poor decision in deciding to date 𝑠ugure because she was lonely. That was not very smart on her part. It's like she's so smart in deciding not to pursue Hatori to avoid drama, and also because she has morals and is not gonna steal her best friend's man. But boy, was she stupid in deciding to date 𝑠ugure just so she would not be alone. Especially with a guy like 𝑠ugure, he does not make for a good rebound whatsoever. I think dating someone for any reason other than the grounds that you truly are interested in them should not be a reason why you should start seeing them, because especially in this case, if you're seeing someone just so that you will not be alone, that probably is not a good idea, especially if you do not see yourself with this person in the long run, which I don't think Mayu ever did. She just wanted someone to be there for her, and 𝑠ugure did not, under any circumstances, make for a great moral support type of relationship whatsoever. He was so cold toward her. As we saw, wouldn't even hold her. Well, okay, one thing that Mayu says is that he wouldn't even embrace me. That's for another reason. He cannot embrace you, girl, because then he would change into a dog, and that would be bad, and you're not supposed to know about that. But he wouldn't even, like, give her little handholds or even kiss her, and she took notice of that. But she also noticed that those were things that Hatori and Kana did, except for embrace, obviously, and she wanted that, but 𝑠ugure wouldn't give her that, because the foundation of their relationship was built on one of them, which is Mayu, feeling lonely, so she was just like, I'll take anyone. And Shigure just being bored, which is such a horrible reason to see someone because you're bored. That logic right there is pretty crappy. So there was never going to be any physical love going on there because the way they started their relationship was not built on love. They were for other reasons. And Mayu saw that, and I'm sure she was, though we don't see who broke up with who, I'm sure she was the one who just called it off because she's like, I ain't getting anything out of this. This is just making me feel lonelier, which is so true. That is another thing. When you start a relationship that is a rebound, it's only going to make you feel even lonelier than you were before, because you realize that this person is never going to give you the love and attention that you need because they don't really like you. You're just using them so you will not feel alone, and they're just using you to have something to do. So no affection is ever going to come out of a relationship like that. And then 2 years later, she's like, I ain't ever doing that again. I ain't ever dating someone because I'm lonely again. And like, you learned your lesson. You learned it the hard way, but at least you learned it. And yeah, don't ever do that. Just go out with someone because you genuinely like them and for no other reason beside that. Otherwise, you're just going to be unhappy and it ain't worth it. Not that I have experience in that, but I can only just imagine how much lonelier that would make you feel. So I would rather be with someone because I'm actually interested in them and for no other reason besides that. And while we're on the topic of Shigure, I do actually want to highlight Shigure in this episode because I don't talk about him enough at all because I'm always so hung up on like my favorite characters like Kyo, who I can talk about for hours. But Shigure, man, this episode further proved the point that without him, this series would not be the same. In this episode, we see Shigure pulling the strings for Hatori and Mayu to run into each other, and I genuinely do feel like if it weren't for Shigure, these two would not have run into each other again, because Shigure was the one to push these two to run into each other by him ordering the book for Hatori to pick up at Mayu's shop. And because of that, these guys were able to get to talking and in turn made them start seeing each other. And that was all because of Shigure, even though he was such a schemer the way he went about it. Not only the whole getting Hatori to go to pick up a book, but even worse than that, he told Mayu that Hatori had a girlfriend. And so because Mayu was seeing that Hatori was clearly not happy, he was not exuding happiness as she was saying, she was even more upset because when you're dating someone, most of the time you should be happy about it. And so she was so confused and she was just like, is this guy never going to be happy no matter what goodness comes into his life? And that's why she had a breakdown, because she thought he had a girlfriend. And so the reason Shigure said that was so that Mayu's feelings for him would heighten to the point where she would want to be there for him. And Shigure obviously knows how hard things have been on Hatori and how he's truly not happy in the situation he's in, with constantly being at the estate, constantly being called by Akito. He's just not happy, and Shigure knows that. And so how I take it is that he pushed Mayu to feel this way, to recognize that Hatori is not happy despite having a girlfriend, which he doesn't, so that she could recognize his unhappiness for herself and want to help him break out of his feelings of being unhappy. Because the reason Shigure does these schemes is because he wants to make a change, and so he wants to help his friend out. He hates seeing Hatori like this, so he wants to put things into motion to help Hatori break out of his unhappiness. And that's the thing with Shigure. Even though his methods, the way he tries to do things for the greater good, is controversial, he always has good intentions based on his end goal. It's just the way he goes about achieving those things can be really problematic because he manipulates and manipulating people is never like a very morally good thing to do. But the reason I can let that slide a little is because he's doing these things for the greater good of everyone, to benefit everyone. He puts things into motion so that these things will get accomplished. And that's why, although he can come across very unlikable because he's a manipulator, I can't hate him because what he does is going to benefit everyone in the long run. That's why it's so hard to hate him, and I always express that I have a love-hate thing with 𝑠higeru, because he's such a schemer, but he does things for the greater good that it's just so hard to fully hate him, and that's what makes for some good character writing right there. If you could have such mixed feelings on a character because they have toxic traits, yet the toxic things they do actually benefit everyone, that makes for some pretty good character writing. I often try to think of what the series would be like if 𝑠higeru was not in it, and I truly think this series would not be the same at all if 𝑠higeru was not in it, because he's the one who actually drives people to do things, because he pushes everyone in a direction that is going to lead to conflict, but also the climax and the resolution of all of their stories. If he were not in the series, I don't know how else the characters would be able to get to those big points in their stories and reach their closure and resolution. I just cannot see another way that could happen, and that's why 𝑠higeru is such an important character. Even if you don't like him, you have to recognize that he is so important, and I think this episode really showcased that. So in conclusion, Fruits Basket would not be nearly the same without him, and I'm so glad he's there. Even though he's not my favorite character, he's really important. I have to admit that. Hatori leaving the estate because he's so desperate to get out of there, even though he could and he kind of did face consequences for leaving, is so sad. It just proves how unhappy he is living there and being called up on all the time. He's so sick of it and he just wanted to get out of there. That's why he insisted on coming back for the book the next day instead of Mayu shipping it to him, because he genuinely just wanted a reason to leave the estate, which I do not blame him. No one wants to be there. I would not want to be there if Akito was calling me up 24/7 because he's constantly sick and constantly needs attention. I would be like, get someone else to do it. I'm done being there 24/7 for someone who does not even deserve it. So he had every right to want to leave, and I am so glad that he did. Even though he got chewed out for doing it by the old maid, which, gosh, that old maid. Now she's showing up a lot more, and she is so freaking annoying. She's always just that one person who has no purpose but to be a huge grouch and just ridicule everyone. Honestly, she's almost as bad, if not as bad, as Akito. Just doesn't have a single nice bone in her body. It's just always mean to everyone. And not only that, but she really encourages Akito's toxic behavior. She does not help at all. Oh, she's just so horrible. But that's besides the point. Now that's just a rant. We're talking about Hatori. I'm so glad he did go out, because he really does need a break. Even though he just came back from the vacation, he still needs a break, because even at the vacation house, he was still around Akito and tending to him. So no. He needed a proper break, and I'm so glad he got one. And I'm so glad that he got to see Mayu while on his break. So let's get to that whole scene. One thing that Hatori expresses is that he is unable to cry. He has stated also that he wants to, but being an adult, he feels like he can't. And this is actually the main thing I wanted to talk about regarding this episode, because one thing that Hatori does is he keeps all of his emotions bottled in and will not let them out, which is not a smart thing to do. I think it is always a good idea to let out your emotions, no matter how bad they might be, no matter if you feel the need to cry, do it, because keeping those emotions in is only going to damage you in the long run. It can get to a point where you've kept too much in that it starts to feel like a burden on you, and it messes with your emotions even more severely, and then you will have a complete breakdown, which is something that could happen to Hatori. He could get so messed up by keeping his emotions in that he just breaks down, and that could cause a lot of mental health issues. So he needs to let that stuff out. But at the same time, even though he didn't, I think it's just as good that 𝑚AYU did it for him, because even if he's not going to do it, at least someone did it for him and was able to show him so he could recognize that those are the type of emotions he should be letting out. Because Mayuko, she just genuinely wants him to be happy, and when he was like, happiness just isn't for me, which who says that? Happiness is just not for me. That's such a horrible thing to say. She was like, she just broke down and was so upset that he felt like he could never be happy, which Hatori deserves so much happiness, and that's what 𝑚AYU thinks, that's what I think, that's what pretty much everyone thinks. So that was just like total BS on Hatori's part. I'm like, you're being so frustrating. Of course you deserve to be happy, and that's all 𝑚AYU wants for him. She says, like, release him from this burden that's on him, what's weighing on his heart, just release him from it. We know what that is. That's Akito and the freaking curse, which is something that's not going to go away right away because the curse is still ongoing. Akito is still horrible and in his life, so that's not going to go away, but at least we want him to find some sort of happiness outside of the curse, which right now, as we see, that's kind of what �ＭAYU is for him. She is his happiness right now, so thank God she is there for him. And in the future, after like this lesson, that he realized for himself that it's alright to just cry and let those emotions out. I hope that when something arises where he feels like he has to let out his emotions, that he does do it, because it is the most healthy thing you can probably do in that situation. No matter how old you are, it's fine to just cry if you need to. And I think that's something that �ＭAYU will continue to help him realize the more they spend time together, that it's alright to do that. And that's why I think these two are really just so good for each other. �ＭAYU helps him to bring out his emotions. We don't see that, but I can only assume that that's something that she will continue to help him with. So I do think Hatori needs someone like �ＭAYU to be that emotional support and also to help him let out his emotions whenever he needs to and feel free and comfortable to do that, because Hatori really does think that crying is something that adults can't do, when that is just not true, and he should feel free to do that. And it's a lesson for all of us. Just let out those emotions if you need to, and don't hold them in. Even if you want to bawl like a baby, just bawl like a baby. I swear, I probably cry at least 5 times a month just because I have anxiety all the time, so I'm like constantly crying, and I usually just let myself do that, because really it is true, when I hold that stuff in, it just makes things so much worse. And I have done that before, and then I realize, oh, I probably should not have done that, because now I just feel even worse than I did before. That's why you just don't hold that stuff in, and it's a miracle that after holding those emotions in for so long, Hatori has not had a complete breakdown at this point. It just proves how strong he is. But there's going to come a point where it's going to be too much for him to handle. He'll just have a total meltdown if he were to keep those emotions in for too long. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Probably will never do this type of video ever again. I thought it would be nice to try out, but I felt so scatterbrained. I normally feel scatterbrained in my reviews, so I felt even more so while multitasking. It just is not for me. So I am glad I tried it out just to see, because I thought it'd be fun to do, which it was. But I feel like I cannot say my thoughts as eloquently as I probably can in my regular reviews, so but we tried it, and it was worth a try. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I would really like to know, so put it in the comments so I can read them. I don't know if I will review next week's episode, because I can't remember if the next part is actually more of a transitionary part. It might be, so there might not be a lot to actually discuss with it, but we'll see. I need to reread those chapters and see if it has anything I can talk about in it, so I can like prepare ahead of time. So that's still up in the air. I might review the next one, might not. We'll just see once it comes out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more anime related videos and anime reactions. And also be sure to click that bell icon beside the subscribe button if you want to be notified for whenever I post a new video. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!